What would happen if the most powerful governments in the galaxy discovered that the people they tried to erase had become stronger than ever? What would you do if the same civilization that threw you into the darkness suddenly realized that the darkness belonged to you? If stories of humanity rising against impossible odds inspire you, hit the like button right now. Subscribe for more epic HFY sci-fi adventures, and share this video with someone who loves watching humanity prove everyone wrong. The question spread quietly through the Nexus as delegates arrived from every direction. If the Concord could exile humanity, what could stop it from doing the same thing to others? That question sat heavily in the minds of every representative who entered the unfinished Great Hall. The walls were still bare metal. Construction drones floated overhead. Some sections of the ceiling had not even received their final panels. Exposed support beams stretched across the chamber. It looked less like the capital of a rising civilization and more like a work site. That was exactly why Sarah Chun wanted it that way. She wanted every visitor to understand what they were seeing. Not perfection. Construction. Not old power. New power. The representatives took their seats. 26 species. 26 civilizations. Many of them had never stood in the same room before. Some were allies. Some were rivals. A few had fought border conflicts within the last decade. Yet they all sat together because of one shared realization. The Concord had become something dangerous. Sarah Chun stepped onto the central platform. The room became silent. She looked around slowly. "I will not ask you to join humanity," she said. That immediately caught everyone's attention. Many had expected a recruitment speech. Many expected promises. Many expected pressure. Instead, Chun continued. The Concord was built on control disguised as cooperation. If we repeat that mistake, then we deserve to fail. Several delegates exchanged surprised looks. Chun pointed toward the unfinished walls. "Everything you see here is incomplete. So are we. We are not offering an empire. We are not offering domination. We are offering a choice." The room remained silent. A choice to build something where every civilization matters. For nearly 6 hours, the discussions continued. Representatives spoke openly. They shared frustrations. They described economic pressure, political manipulation, hidden punishments, trade restrictions disguised as regulations. The stories came from different species but sounded remarkably similar. The Concord claimed to serve everyone. Yet somehow the same small group always remained in control. By the end of the meeting, a new organization was officially formed. It would be called the Frontier Alliance. The name was simple. The meaning was powerful. No civilization would hold permanent authority. No species would receive special status. Every member would possess equal voting rights. The document was signed before midnight. When the final signature appeared, history changed. Humanity had not merely survived exile. Humanity had built an alternative. 3 days later, the Concord survey fleet arrived. The fleet commander expected to discover scattered human outposts. Instead, his sensors detected hundreds of ships, massive construction platforms, industrial stations, military patrol groups, communication networks, and at the center of it all, the Nexus. The commander stared at the sensor report. Then he ordered every system scanned again. The results did not change. Humanity had not been isolated. Humanity had expanded. The report reached High Coordinator Brethren 4 days later. He read it twice, then 3 times. Then he locked his office door. For the first time in decades, he felt genuine fear. Not because humanity had survived. He always knew survival was possible. What frightened him was the speed. 14 months. That was all it had taken. 14 months to build an independent network. 14 months to establish alliances. 14 months to create technology beyond Concord oversight. 14 months to become unpredictable. And unpredictable civilizations terrified old powers. Brethren immediately called an emergency session. The senior council gathered within hours. Many expected a discussion. Instead, Brethren projected the survey report onto the chamber walls. Silence followed. One council member finally spoke. "This cannot be accurate." "It is." "Then we must investigate further." "We already did." Another official leaned forward. "Perhaps we should reopen diplomatic channels." Several others reacted immediately. The suggestion itself felt shocking. Only months earlier these same leaders had celebrated humanity's expulsion. Now they were discussing negotiations. Brethren understood why. Because the situation had changed. The Concord only appeared strong when everyone depended upon it. Humanity no longer depended upon it. That changed everything. Meanwhile, life in the void continued accelerating. New colonies appeared every month. Exploration fleets pushed farther outward. Research stations multiplied. The torsion drive transformed everything. Distances that once required months now required days. Human expansion exploded across unclaimed space. Children born after the exile grew up hearing stories about the old Concord. To them it sounded almost strange. A civilization asking permission to innovate. A government controlling scientific progress. A bureaucracy deciding which technologies could exist. The younger generation could barely understand it. They had been raised in the frontier. And the frontier rewarded initiative. Every success inspired another. Every breakthrough created new opportunities. Within 3 years, humanity controlled more independent infrastructure than it had built during the previous 20. The greatest achievement arrived unexpectedly. Deep inside unexplored space, an exploration vessel discovered something extraordinary. An ancient transportation gateway. The structure floated between stars. It was larger than a moon. No known civilization had built it. Its origins were completely unknown. Scientists rushed to investigate. Archaeologists arrived. Engineers followed. For months they studied the structure. Eventually they activated a small section. The results stunned everyone. The gateway connected regions of space separated by thousands of light years. Travel that once required months could now happen in hours. The discovery changed strategic calculations across the galaxy. Humanity controlled the first gateway. And that gateway sat inside Frontier Alliance territory. The Concord immediately demanded access. The Frontier Alliance refused. Not out of hostility. Out of caution. Nobody understood the technology completely. Nobody knew who built it. Nobody knew whether more existed. Opening unrestricted access would be reckless. The Concord interpreted the refusal differently. To them it looked like defiance. Tensions rose. Trade disagreements intensified. Political accusations multiplied. For the first time in centuries, the Concord encountered an organization capable of saying no. And surviving the consequences. The years passed. The Frontier Alliance expanded steadily. 30 member species became 40. 40 became 58. Each civilization joined voluntarily. Each retained sovereignty. Each contributed something unique. The alliance became known for one unusual principle. If someone asked for help, people helped. It sounded simple, but it created remarkable loyalty. Human rescue ships became legendary.
Alliance Engineer rebuit d'Amaged colonie.
Medical teams crossed enormous distances to assist struggling worlds. Trust grew faster than treaties ever could. And trust became the alliance's greatest strength. Around this time, another crisis emerged. A mysterious force appeared beyond the outer frontier. Entire systems began losing communication. Ships vanished. Colonies disappeared. At first, everyone assumed pirates were responsible. Then the evidence became impossible to ignore. The attacks were too coordinated, too efficient, too large. Exploration fleets eventually discovered the truth. An ancient machine civilization had awakened. Nobody knew who created them. Nobody knew how old they were. The machines simply emerged from deep space and began expanding. Their objectives remained unknown. Their methods were terrifyingly clear. Every inhabited system resources vanished. Infrastructure disappeared. Population centers went silent. The machines advanced relentlessly. The first civilization they attacked was not human. It was a small independent species beyond Alliance borders. Their distress call reached the Nexus. The Alliance Council met immediately. Many argued caution. The threat was unknown. The risks were enormous. Saracen listened carefully. Then she stood. The Concord watched when humanity was exiled. The room became silent. They calculated risks. Nobody interrupted. They calculated consequences. Chun looked around the chamber. They calculated political costs. Every delegate understood her meaning. While they calculated, people suffered. She pointed toward the emergency report. We are not repeating that mistake. The vote passed overwhelmingly. The Alliance mobilized. Massive relief fleets launched within days. Military forces followed. Scientists joined them. Humanity's response shocked the galaxy. Not because of its size, because of its speed. The Alliance acted before endless committees could delay action. And that speed saved millions. The machine threat continued growing. Entire fleets clashed across frontier space. New weapons were developed. New defensive systems emerged. Colonies transformed into fortresses. For the first time, humanity faced an enemy that could not be negotiated with. Yet even during war, something remarkable happened. Former rivals united. Species that once distrusted one another fought side by side. Engineers shared technologies. Scientists exchanged discoveries. Pilots coordinated operations. The machine threat forged stronger bonds than any treaty. After 4 years of conflict, Alliance researchers finally uncovered the machine's weakness. The machines relied on a central quantum command network. Destroy the network. Destroy the coordination. Destroy the threat. The final campaign involved hundreds of worlds and thousands of ships. It became the largest military operation in recorded history. Human fleets formed the spearhead. Alliance forces formed the shield. Together they advanced into machine territory. Battle after battle followed. Losses were severe. Victories came slowly, but progress continued. Finally, the command nexus was located, hidden inside a dying star system, protected by unimaginable defenses. The final assault lasted 17 hours. Thousands of ships participated. Millions watched across the galaxy. The battle became legendary. When the command nexus finally collapsed, the machine network failed. Entire fleets shut down. The war ended. The galaxy celebrated. Even the Concord celebrated. Because the truth was unavoidable. Without humanity and the Alliance, everyone would have lost. If you're enjoying this journey of humanity's rise, take a second to like the video, subscribe for more HFY sci-fi stories, and share this adventure with fellow science fiction fans. Your support helps these stories reach even more viewers across the world. The years following the machine war transformed everything. Old prejudices weakened. Old assumptions disappeared. The Concord could no longer pretend humanity represented a danger. Humanity had just saved civilizations across known space, including many that once supported the exile. Public opinion shifted dramatically. Citizens throughout the galaxy began asking uncomfortable questions. Why had humanity been expelled? What crime had they committed? What threat had they truly represented? The answers became increasingly difficult to justify. Pressure mounted. Eventually, the Concord requested formal talks. The invitation arrived at the Nexus. Many Alliance leaders wanted to reject it. Saracen disagreed. We built all this because dialogue failed. She held up the invitation. If we refuse dialogue now, then we become what they were. Negotiations began. For months, diplomats worked through countless disagreements. The process moved slowly, sometimes painfully, but progress emerged. At one meeting, brethren finally met Saracen face to face again. Both had changed. Both had aged. Both carried the weight of history. For several moments, neither spoke. Then brethren finally broke the silence. I believed I was protecting stability. Chen nodded. I know. Brethren seemed surprised. You know? The old coordinator looked away. That doesn't make me correct.
Non.
The conversation continued for hours. Not as enemies. Not as friends. As people trying to understand the consequences of their decisions. Eventually Brethren asked a question. Did you hate us? Chun considered the answer carefully. Then she shook her head.
Non.
The response clearly surprised him. Why not? Because hate is expensive. The room became quiet. Chun continued. We needed that energy to build. Years later historians would quote that sentence repeatedly. We needed that energy to build. It summarized humanity's response perfectly. The Concorde had expected resentment.
Humanity chose construction.
The Concorde expected revenge. Humanity chose expansion. The Concorde expected collapse. Humanity chose growth. Those choices changed history. A new agreement eventually emerged. The Concorde remained independent. The Frontier Alliance remained independent. But cooperation resumed. Trade reopened. Scientific exchanges expanded. Travel restrictions disappeared. The exclusion zone officially ended. When the announcement was made, celebrations erupted across countless worlds. For many people it felt like the end of a conflict. For humanity it felt like the closing of a chapter. Because they no longer needed permission to exist. The most remarkable development came decades later. Exploration fleets discovered additional gateway networks. Then more. Then hundreds. Evidence began pointing toward an astonishing conclusion. The galaxy was far larger than anyone imagined. Known space represented only a fraction of reality. New frontiers stretched endlessly outward. New civilizations waited among distant stars. New opportunities appeared every year. Humanity embraced the challenge immediately. Exploration became a cultural obsession. Shipyards expanded continuously. Colonies multiplied. Research accelerated. Generation after generation pushed farther into the unknown. The Frontier Alliance grew alongside them. By the time Sarah Chun reached old age, the alliance included over 100 civilizations. The Nexus had become one of the largest stations ever constructed. Its Great Hall now held representatives from across vast regions of space. Visitors often admired the magnificent architecture, the polished walls, the elegant lighting, the beautiful design. Yet one section remained untouched. The original unfinished metal wall, the exposed framework, the construction marks, the scars of the beginning. When visitors asked why it remained there, guides always gave the same answer. Because people must remember. Remember what? Remember that this started as exile. Remember that this started with loss. Remember that this started when powerful people decided humanity did not belong. And remember what happened next. Near the end of her life, Sarah Chun visited the wall one final time. She stood quietly, watching workers move through the station, watching diplomats discuss treaties, watching children from dozens of species play together nearby. Everything felt larger than she ever imagined. Colonel Reeves joined her, his hair completely gray. For a while they simply watched. Then Reeves smiled. Remember when this place was mostly cables and scaffolding? Chun laughed softly. I remember. You were right. She glanced at him. About what? History looking impossible from the construction deck. For several seconds neither spoke. Then Chun looked across the enormous station, across the species, across the generations, across the civilization that had emerged from rejection. We were never building stations. Reeves raised an eyebrow. No. Chun shook her head. We were building proof. Proof of what? She smiled. That nobody gets to decide humanity's future except humanity. Years after her passing, those words became engraved inside the Nexus. Visitors from hundreds of worlds still stop to read them. Not because they belong only to humanity, but because they belong to anyone who has ever been underestimated. Anyone who has ever been told they were too small, too weak, Too different. Too unimportant. The galaxy once believed humanity had been banished to the void. What it failed to understand was something simple. The void was never a prison. It was an opportunity. The Concord built a wall around humanity. Humanity used that wall as a foundation. The Concord tried to isolate a civilization. Instead, it created the conditions for the largest alliance in history. And in the end, the greatest lesson was not about technology. Not about fleets. Not about power. It was about choice. When faced with humiliation, humanity chose determination. When faced with fear, when faced with isolation, humanity chose connection. And those choices built an empire far larger than any government could have imagined. Not an empire of conquest. An empire of trust. An empire of friendship. An empire of shared purpose stretching across the stars. And it all began the day the galaxy decided humanity did not belong. If this story showed you why humanity is always strongest when challenged, make sure to like the video, subscribe for more HFY sci-fi adventures, and share it with someone who enjoys epic tales of resilience, exploration, and triumph among the stars. The end.